Hello everyone, my name is Iskren Konstantinov, and today I will present to you my report, which is named Leadership in Higher Education through Intellectual Property-Based Innovation at Universities. What is the aim of the paper? The aim of the paper is to find out, through conducting some research, whether universities rely on their own patentable innovations in order to achieve leadership positions in the field of higher education, where the universities that we're going to be looking at are Bulgarian universities. What is the scope of the paper? The scope of the paper is that we're going to focus on one particular object of intellectual property, which is the invention, patentable inventions. And we're not going to look at other objects such as trademarks or utility models or copyrighted works, which are very important for the growth of university academic staff. Let me first begin with the importance of the IP system. The IP system, which began first at the late 19th century, has great importance because what it does is it promotes and protects novel creative ideas by giving them the characteristics of property. Why is that important? Why is intellectual property important? Well, we can see from the statistics of the World Intellectual Property Organization that just in 2020, 3.2 million applications, patent applications, were filed in the world. Also, a joint study conducted by the European Patent Office and the European Union Intellectual Property Office from 2019 shows us that industries that depend heavily on intellectual property account for 45% of total economic activity in the European Union. You can see that intellectual property is seen as something important by companies which want to be competitive on the market. Initially, when the IP system was established, mainly individual creators and inventors took advantage of it and used it. But with the development of technology, we see that it is now necessary, what is needed to create new patentable inventions is vast resources, financial resources, and experts often in many different areas, which makes it that in recent decades, organizations are the ones that more commonly patent inventions. We're going to look at one type of organization, the university. It is an organization which in theory should have great advantage in the patenting of new novel ideas, new inventions. Why? Because essentially a university is a knowledge hub. It has a vast academic staff which has deep knowledge in different areas and has an advantage in possessing that knowledge and should be able to come up with new novel ideas, patentable ideas, which can then reach the market. A university has as its main purpose the educational process, or said in other words, a university transfers knowledge. As we understand knowledge transfer in its wide understanding. Because university academic staff educate students, which then in turn go into society and use their knowledge to better that society. The other major aspect of university activity is the research. Academic staff conducts research, which then leads to the creation of new products, new creative novel products, which in turn are objects of intellectual property and are at the core of technology transfer. Technology transfer itself has its history and beginning in the United States with the adoption of the Bayh-Dole Act in 1980, which allowed universities to own the results of their research, which was financed by the federal budget. Soon after that, many European countries adopted this type of legislation where universities could keep their research results as property and seek to commercialize it themselves. The development of this process, the technology transfer process, created the need for skilled professionals which needed to undertake various tasks related to technology transfer, to disseminate the knowledge of intellectual property, to communicate with staff regarding their inventions and their new creations, to initiate procedures in front of the patent office for the protection of the particular object of intellectual property, to communicate with the authorities, etc. But overall, IP ownership, the protection of IP, is regulated under national legislation and where available under the university's own IP policy. We can see, if we want to look at how successful technology transfer is, at statistics from AUTM from 2020, which shows that in the United States there were 933 products created at universities and also over 27,000 invention disclosures in front of technology transfer offices which are located at universities. However, mainly due to different legislative regulations, we can see that in former communist countries, the technology transfer activities and overall patenting activities is much lower than those in the Western world, which we can attribute to the relatively recent change in their economies. They had, those countries, those former communist countries, had planned economies and recently moved to open economies and are still struggling to find their way in the market. I conducted a patent search on the top 20 universities in economics in Bulgaria, ranked by the Bulgarian university ranking system, by which you can see the results. What I have put here are the ranking of the university, the total search results by the name of the university, and the total number of active national patents that the university possesses. We can see that there is a very low patenting activity among universities, and that it is not their patenting is not really their focus. They aren't focused on producing inventions as a result of their research work. The reason for that can vary. For example, one problem can be the existing legislation and or university IP policies, which do not incentivize researchers to create novel inventions. Another reason could be the culture of academic development of the academic staff solely through publications. Researchers choosing to publish their works rather than seeking patents for their inventions. Other reason could be the poorly developed entrepreneurial skills due to the historical development of the country and the change of the type of market that exists, and also the way intellectual property was protected previously, which takes time for academic staff to adjust to changes. Also, researchers or academic staff might also prefer to commercialize their ideas through private companies and offer their services and their knowledge to those companies outside of the university, which could also be the reason why there is such low patenting activity. Another reason could be low IP awareness among academic staff. They simply don't have knowledge of IP. Also, there could be a lack of IP professionals at the university, which could spread awareness among the academic staff and students. And when we have such low patenting activity, there it is logical for there to be lack of financing. There could also be specifically lack of financing for research, which is aimed at the production of novel inventions as a final research result. There could also be different reasons for that. I also examined the statistical reports of the Patent Office of the Republic of Bulgaria, and what you can see from the table that statistics that are presented by the Patent Office combine patent applications by universities with those by the institutes of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. It should be pointed out that universities and BAC, as is the abbreviation, are regulated by different legislative acts, which makes it difficult to compare both. And if we want the exact number of patents, for example, by universities, one has to conduct search on all Bulgarian universities. Which we can also see low overall patent application activity in the country. The application activity of universities and the Bulgarian Academy of Science compared to the total activity for the year 2020 is only 17.07%. We can also see that in the last 5 years there isn't a significant increase in patent applications. The numbers roughly stay the same, and we can deduce that patenting of inventions cannot be a factor in the leadership positions of Bulgarian universities as presented in the ranking system. Therefore, when we have such low patenting activities, we can make several conclusions here. We can see that when there is low patenting activities, very little patents owned by universities, the technology transfer system is obviously very underdeveloped. When there isn't technology transfer activities, there is a lack of IP professionals who conduct those kinds of activities. If there is no technology transfer, there is no need for financing, and we can assume that there is a lack of such financing. What is needed is conducting some IP awareness among academic staff and both students to try to promote them seeking the creation of inventions, of new ideas, which will in turn be patentable and find their place in society. In conclusion, both from the patent research that was conducted and seeing the statistical data from the Bulgarian Patent Office, we can conclude that at the current moment, technology transfer from universities to businesses and commercialization of university industrial property cannot be a factor in establishing leadership positions by the Bulgarian universities, simply because the numbers are too low to assume that it affects their position in the national ranking system. So the low application activity, therefore the lack of focus of scientific research towards the creating of results which are patentable, shows that universities and researchers, the academic staff, do not rely on intellectual property, and in particular, in our case, industrial property, inventions. The reasons for that could be varied: cultural, economic, legislative, the market size, etc. But overall, we can conclude that there isn't a relation between the patentable products of Bulgarian universities and their ranking positions in the BURS, the Bulgarian ranking system. Thank you very much.